Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome into Tider Insider TV alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Now, we always enjoy doing our show, but tonight, Rodney, I think we got a little extra oomph, because not only is it fun when you're coming off a major SEC victory on the road over one of your rivals, but also after a number of weeks at low power and not being on a lot of different television providers, we're back at full power. Our transmitter has been fixed, and because of that, Rodney, we're on the cable systems, we're on the satellite systems. So people that have not been able to watch us, hopefully you're with us tonight, because I'm just going to call what happened Saturday night the beatdown on the Bayou, Rodney. Let's just jump right in. Alabama, you talk about a standard when it comes to Crimson Tide football. Well, Saturday night, Alabama played to that standard in that 42-13 shellacking of the Bayou Bengals down in Baton Rouge. And we're welcome to take some video anytime we want here. There we go. Alabama down there on a rainy night in Baton Rouge absolutely destroyed LSU 42-13. The Bayou Bengals didn't score a touchdown until really the final seconds in the game when they kept their first team offense in. Jalen Milroe was phenomenal. 12 carries for 185 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's a new high for him with rushing yards, and just on 12 carries, that's over 15 yards a carry. Justice Haynes and Jam Miller did well with the run game, and Richard Young also got in and had a rushing touchdown. On the defense, Alabama was in fuego. They absolutely gave Nussmeier fits all night long. They forced a fumble, had 2 interceptions, and in the kicking game, maybe if you want to be a little bit critical, the coverage on the kickoffs was not where it needs to be. But outside of that, Rodney, it was domination. Alabama's now won 12 of the last 14 against LSU. And in this game, and you and I have seen some impressive Alabama wins. After all, Alabama's 30 wins, 10 losses, and 2 ties all time in Baton Rouge against LSU. I remember 31-0 with Dennis Franchione over Nick Saban in 2002. I remember some of Coach Bryant's beatdowns down there. Bill Curry had a couple great games down there. But for what was at stake, basically a playoff elimination game, what was on the line at night, national TV, this was about as impressive as any Alabama win I've seen at Tiger Stadium.
I think, Gary, look, a lot of people thought, could Alabama go on the road and play that well? There's a lot of people, we saw the Vanderbilt game. Obviously, they didn't play extremely well against Tennessee. They did not communicate well initially in that game. The crowd noise got to them, but Alabama had a bad play to start the game, right? They got the penalty with Caden Proctor.
Before they were in play, yeah.
Exactly, but they recovered really well. Jalen Milroe makes a big throw to get them out of a hole, get them going, and pretty much after that, Alabama dominated. They dominated the line of scrimmage. The one thing that I really like to see, Gary, in this game, this is the first time in a while that you've seen Alabama go on the road. They're the team that's making all the plays, and the other team, the opponent's the one beating themselves in crucial situations. Alabama certainly had a lot to do with that, but, it's been a while. But this team, they went down there. It was a very, very impressive road win.
When you look at the game plan, the last 2 games against Missouri and against LSU, similar scripts. Now, they ran it a lot more with the running backs against Missouri, and Milroe in this game was dominant. But the line of scrimmage control, I thought in the passing game, there was a lot more where Jalen took the snap, and, you kind of felt like either the ball was going to go here or he was going to pull it down and run. I mean, there wasn't a lot of, standing back there trying to go through a bunch of progressions. They just got physical. They got downhill. Only threw it 18 times against LSU. You compare that to 45 times at Tennessee. And let's be honest, I don't know if Milroe was 100% or not against Tennessee and Vanderbilt, but when he plays like this in the run game, I mean, it's a lot like Derrick Henry. I mean, it really is. To be that big and that strong and that fast, you don't see that. I know he's a quarterback, but you just don't see that very much in college or pro football. He is a freakish athlete.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you mentioned, the 45 passes against Tennessee, that was out of whack. I think you have to give credit to Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan for reevaluating the offensive game plan. You saw it at the start of the Missouri game. They went to the quick, easy throws. I think Jalen Milroe, sometimes, it's the rhythm that he gets into early that kind of dictates the way he plays from there on out. I think when you look at the Missouri game, they threw it 26 times. You mentioned they threw it 18 times. It was efficient in this game, his throws. They were utilizing the running backs very impressively. I don't know that they've utilized them as much in the pass game as they did in this particular game. Jam Miller had a really good game, catching several balls. And then, again, we know what Milroe did. I mean, what has he done in the last 2 games against LSU?
8 touchdowns.
I mean, it's
unbelievable.
It's just amazing. He's a Tiger killer.
If he played LSU every week, he'd win the Heisman. Back-to-back
No
seasons. Something, too, about the atmosphere down there. And it was electric. Let's be clear. I mean, they were waiting. LSU people thought they were going to ambush Alabama and be on their way to the college football playoff. But I said this last week, Rodney, and I said I knew this was a new team with a new coaching staff, but the success that you've had over the years there for Alabama doesn't view going to Tiger Stadium like anybody else in this league. I think that carries over. Even to new coaching staffs, the confidence level, they emptied that place out before the end of the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, again, you go back to the week before the Georgia game. It was a bye week. I thought Alabama came out, obviously, in the first half, was dominant against Georgia in that first half. A couple of plays from just totally knocking them out, right? Kept Georgia in the game. The second half was a little bit different. They come to a bye week before LSU, again, extremely well prepared. They made some tweaks in the run game, made some tweaks in how they utilized Jalen Milroe in the run game. And you look at the defense now, starting to play with a lot more confidence. I think they're starting to feel more comfortable with the scheme that they have. And right now, again, you look at the last 8 quarters of Alabama football, it's been the most consistent football they've played all year. Now, the question is, as you start to move forward, you got Mercer coming up. Do you continue to play to the standard, or do you get kind of starting to play to the opponent? I think that's what I'm watching this Saturday.
That's the question. We always talk about when somebody beats Alabama. Yeah. What are they going to do with it? Well, in this case, what's Alabama going to do with this win against LSU? You still got 3 games to play. And I know the 2 conference games against Oklahoma and Auburn are huge, but so is this one. You said it, Rodney. Mercer, I understand it. They're from the Southern Conference, FCS. But they're 9-1. They've been a dominant football team this year. They've already clinched at least a share of the Southern Conference Championship. Running back Dwayne McGee leads the SoCon with 933 yards rushing. Their Bear defense leads the league with 36 sacks, 85 tackles for loss, 21 picks. I mean, they are dominant at their level. So, listen, here's what... we said this before the Vanderbilt game, and that was an SEC game, but Alabama didn't respect Vanderbilt. You could see it. They didn't get themselves ready to play. We're going to know about middle ways of the third quarter if Alabama does this week what it needs to do in terms of preparation. Rodney, if you look up it's 20-10 in the third quarter, you're going to say, you know what? They weren't ready to go. You look up and it's 35-3, you're going to say they got themselves ready to play, because this team is good enough that if you don't do what you need to do to get ready to play, they can hang around.
Make a game out of it, no doubt about it. I mean, you listed a lot of impressive stats that they have, and they're really good. I mean, I know Sanford took care of them pretty good a few weeks back. But
their only loss.
Yeah, this team's really, really good. They throw the ball well. They run the ball well. They're balanced. They've got quarterbacks that can run, can throw. I would say this. You talked about the defense, Gary. You know what? They only give up 55 yards a game rushing. Pretty impressive stat. And again, I understand the competition, but at the same time, they're going to come in here. I think they're going to try. They think they can challenge Alabama to some extent.
You forced 28 turnovers. I don't care what level you're at. That's impressive. 21 interceptions, 28 total turnovers. That's the most in the country in college football. All right, Nick Saban always says, it's harder to motivate your team after a big win. Rodney, we already saw that. We've alluded to it after the Georgia game. Alabama went to Vanderbilt. Give Vanderbilt credit. We've done that. But still, the Tide laid an egg. They didn't play well in that game. As you said, you're really looking to avoid that on Saturday at home.
Should be a lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, this team, look, you saw what happened at Vanderbilt. Again, Vanderbilt's a lot better Vanderbilt than what we've seen over the last several years, for sure. Diego Pavia, I don't think we're going to see a guy like that, on the field. Now, again, they're really good quarterbacks at that level. But this is a challenge for Alabama, and that's the way these players should take it. It's a challenge that they want to play to the standard.
All right, let's talk more about it in Coach Talk. While the win at LSU, as we've talked about, was certainly impressive, it's in the rearview mirror, and Alabama still needs to win its last 3 games to feel good about making the 12-team college football playoff. Well, that test begins on Saturday at home against 9-1 Mercer from the Southern Conference. Head coach Kalen DeBoer now on building on the momentum from the LSU game and not taking anything for granted.
You got momentum to build off of. You make sure you take advantage of it. And then you also continue to just keep the pedal down, keep focused on what you believe in. And we've been doing that. Just stay in the course. And, just because all of a sudden, you kind of feel like you get over a hump doesn't mean, you can just let off, because it's about the next play. The next one's the most important one. And that's good. That's been our focus really since day one.
And just real quickly, according to ESPN Analytics, Alabama now all of a sudden has the second best chance to make the SEC championship game, 52% behind Texas at 64%. That's how quickly things can change. But they could change quickly again, you know, if Alabama doesn't take care of business on Saturday, then in the SEC 2 final games against Oklahoma and Auburn. Well, still to come on Tide Insider TV, we'll discuss Alabama's start to the season in basketball as they prepare for their biggest test coming up this Friday night up in West Lafayette, Indiana. And a little bit later on, we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There's the basketball. Grant Nelson and company getting a win last night, but they're going to have a really tough test coming up at Purdue. There is the phone number if you want to go ahead and jot it down. We know we got a lot more people watching tonight, so get those phone lines lit up. 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or email us at TITV@WVUA23.com. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tide Insider TV. And welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa. Go to visittuscaloosa.com. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Alabama men's basketball, 3-0 now with a huge road game on tap this Friday night at Purdue. Now, the bad news is that the Tide, that's the good news. The bad news is the Tide has struggled the last 2 games against mid-majors. Friday night against Arkansas State, and then last night against McNeese State. Alabama had a big lead and almost let it get away. It marked the first time in 40 years that McNeese had played a team coming off a Final Four appearance. That, of course, is Alabama. McNeese hung in the first half. They actually took an early lead, but Mark Sears and the Tide used a 19-4 run to take an 11-point lead into intermission. Sears had 15 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds. And in the second half, Alabama would lead by as many as 21. Latrell Reitzel there with the 3. But McNeese came storming back. They used a 14-1 run to cut it down to 8, and then they would actually cut it to 6. Alabama hangs on to win 72-64. Grant Nelson got his first start coming back from injury. Good thing that they played him. He had 22 points and 8 rebounds. So you're 3-0. And this is a good team. You know, Arkansas State's a good mid-major team, but they're mid-major teams. And with what you got coming up on the schedule the next 6 or 7 games, Rodney, is there reason to be concerned? Alabama the last 2 games shooting 17 of 65 from the 3-point line. That's 26%. And when you shoot as many as they do and you're struggling, you're going to probably have games where you don't look like you'll look when those are going down, obviously. And it's only 72 points last night.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, you look at the talent that they have. I mean, these guys are shooters. I mean, they're gonna hit their stride. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think it's a chemistry. Got a lot of new players that you're still kind of trying to, even though they had, you know, a couple of exhibition games. You mentioned they're 3-0 now. You know, again, I think it's early in the season. I wouldn't get too worked up about it. I think this team certainly is going to live up to the billing.
Yeah, they're built for March. That's the whole idea. And like you said, got to come together, got to find a rotation, got to get the chemistry going. All those are questions. But also, when you're number 2 in the country preseason, you got a magnifying glass on you. And the way that people look at you is different. You know, if you're 22 in the poll, then they'll say, oh, okay, it's a good win. But when you're number 2 in the poll, they want to see you be impressive. But we'll know a lot about this team. The next 6 games are absolutely brutal, beginning with Purdue. They don't play another home game until December 14th against Creighton, who's a really good team, too. So this Alabama team, one thing about Nate Oates, he knows he wants to do it in March. By the time December's over, they've already played a tougher schedule than most people play the entire year.
Right.
So they'll be tested, that's for sure. Alabama women's basketball has maybe its best team ever under Christy Curry, and they got a chance to do some damage. And on this past Sunday, she picked up her 200th win at Alabama as the Crimson Tide was able to take on Troy at home and win it 94-71. And what this means is that this Alabama women's team is, you know, pretty good. And she becomes the second coach in program history to hit 200 wins at Alabama. Rick Moody, of course, took Alabama to a Final Four in 1994. He was the first. They play at Coleman Coliseum tomorrow night. First of back-to-backs against Norfolk State and Alcorn State. And, Rodney, this Alabama women's team, we talk so much about the men, but there is Sarah Ashley Barker. They got a chance, I think, to go deep in the NCAA tournament this year.
Talent levels getting better and better and better. You know, they've gained a lot of confidence, I think, from the success they've had over the last couple of years. Really excited to see how they kind of carry that over. Yep, we are watching both basketball teams really closely. Well, still to come on TITV, our weekly Bama in the NFL report. Always must see. Man, these guys every week. It's so much fun. And coming up next, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number 205-348-9882. And now that we got a lot of you back, as far as our viewers are concerned, let us hear from you on the phone lines. We'll be right back with Tide Insider TV after this timeout.
Bama in the NFL, of course, this is only a sampling, man. These guys are everywhere. But what about John Mechie, Rodney? 2022, he missed the entire season with leukemia. Came back and caught his first touchdown pass the other night against the Lions and had a really good game. Bryce Young, man, back-to-back wins, Rod.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. You've got A'Shawn Robinson forcing a fumble there that won the game in overtime. And, he was just all over the field. People forget about big A'Shawn. Calvin Ridley had a big game, 5 catches for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 4 total touchdowns, 2 on the air and 2 through the ground. Just everywhere, Rodney, on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday night. Whenever there's an NFL game, there's Bama in the NFL. All right, welcome back into the program. We're going to jump out on the phone lines. It's so nice to have our viewing audience back, at least the large part of it. And we're going to lead it off with Sammy up in Walker County, who's biting at the bit to get back on TITV. Hey, Sammy.
Hello, Gary, Rodney. Long time, fellas. Long time no hear from.
Good to have you back, man.
Back in the mix, baby.
Yeah.
Back in the mix.
Yeah.
Glad to talk with y'all guys. Rodney and Gary, my question is the backups, the injured players that got hurt. I know about the Saab, the guy in the safety, but if Rodney and Gary, if y'all would elaborate who's going to be the fill-in guys, the backups.
All right, Sammy, we will. Of course, Bray Hubbard's coming in and did a great job for Keon Sabb. The concern right now is on the outside. Edge rushers, outside linebackers, whatever you would call them. Q Robinson out. Man, what a disappointment. Playing his best football, his career out for the year. Keanu Coote is suspended. So, yeah, they're looking for some help there on the edge.
Yeah, it's a great time for Quay Rousseau. Again, we've seen him. He's done a fantastic job when he's played. Actually, he's probably played more snaps than Q Robinson has, technically. But Johannes Pierre's got a lot of talent, was a highly recruited player, young player, redshirt freshman. He's got, again, Gary, I think this is a great opportunity for him. And now don't forget, you can always slide Jahad Campbell out there. You've got Justin Jefferson you can fill in. You could have 3 of those guys with Deontay Lawson on the field at the same time.
Yeah, but losing Q Robinson, man, he was playing so well, and that really hurt this football team, not just from a standpoint of being better on the field, but I think the players just hate it for him. All right, let's go out to Romulus and talk to Tommy. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, guys, how are y'all tonight?
Doing well.
My question is, we love SEC title, but would it be more important to get in the playoffs and have a bye and hosting the first-round game in the playoffs?
Yeah, Tommy, we do love SEC titles, and if you get to Atlanta, you got a chance to win a 30th, which is so many more than anybody else. Having said that, this is an unintended consequence of conference expansion in no divisions, is that it could actually hurt a team. If you go there with 2 losses and you lose, first of all, will that 3rd loss be held against you in the seedings? And then if you lose, then you're going to have to turn around and play again. Even though it would be a home playoff game, you're going to really have to play an extra game. So I think if Alabama, just from the standpoint of trying to win a national championship, if they're 10-2, I feel good that they're going to get in. I would prefer them not to have to go play in Atlanta, just to be honest with you.
You know, I would too. And like you said, if they go to Atlanta and they lost, does that knock you out of the playoffs?
That's what I'm wondering.
I mean,
yeah.
it's
of course, if you win an SEC championship and you get the bye.
You do, and you got a great seeding, perhaps. It sets you up well. How great would it be, though, Gary, if this SEC championship game, Alabama and Texas?
Yeah, it'd be awesome. And it could happen. And that's the thing. It's going to play out however it plays out, so it doesn't really matter what we think. But if Alabama got there with a chance to play Texas, that could be an awesome game. Well, still to come on Tide Insider Television, Alabama baseball wrapped up the fall season with a marquee opponent. We'll have that for you coming up. And more of our phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, that phone number, 205-348-9882. Let us hear from you. We're rocking and rolling on a Tuesday night following a beat down on the Bayou. TITV will continue after this. Bama baseball wrapping up its fall schedule over the weekend at home against Clemson. Clemson won the first game 8-2. Game 2 was 4-4, and they called it because both teams got it short on pitching. But still great fall. They went to Florida State. They had their Crimson and White World Series. This Alabama baseball team is looking good for next spring. All right, welcome back into the program with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. It's time to get to our email question of the day, and our email question of the day is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation, serving your family like our family. And let's get to it. This is very similar to the phone call that we already had, Jamie, from Haleyville. So, Rodney, you already touched on it, but with Q Robinson out and Keanu Cooch suspended, guys are going to have to step up on the edge.
Yeah, they are. Again, we talked about Clay Rusaw. He's got a lot of playing time already. Number 4 has been, he's made some key plays. Look at that play there against Georgia. And then also Johannes Pierre. This guy's got a lot of talent. We know he's going to be a player in the future for sure. It's a great opportunity for him now. And like we said, Jahad Campbell, you can certainly line him up. He can be an outside pass rusher.
All right, let's get to a phone call. Rick over in Brent is going to close out this segment. Hey, Rick.
Hey, how are y'all?
Doing well.
I'm glad y'all are back.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain the SEC tiebreakers for Alabama to get to Atlanta and what has to happen for them to get there?
Rick, I'm going to sadly disappoint you. I can't, other than head-to-head. But I wouldn't even want to try. Because, listen, you might wind up with 5 or 6 teams that are 6-2.
Yeah.
You could, if there's not, they could all of them could be 2 losses. There's a chance we might not even have a 1-loss team.
You could have a show on that.
So it's going to there's a formula. That's about all I can tell you. Maybe I'll try to figure it out more by next week. All right. Thanks for the phone calls and the emails. Still to come, a former Alabama standout in the NBA is coming into his own. Find out who that is. And it'll be prediction time when we come back. What do we think about the Mercer game? We'll tell you next on Tide and Insider TV. All right, all the talk about Brandon Miller a couple years ago. Noah Connie left after his freshman season, and he is now starting to make some noise with the Nets. He made 5 3-pointers the other night, beating the Pelicans 107-105. That's the most 3-pointers ever made by a player as young as Noah Clowney. He finished with 15 points, went 5 of 10 from 3. He's still just 20 years old, and he is going to be a really good player in the NBA. All right, Rodney, it's prediction time, and as always, you're going to lead us off.
Well, I'll make it real quick. I just want to reiterate what I said earlier. Does Alabama play to the opponent, or do they play to the standard? Let's hope they play to the standard. 42-6.
I'm with you. I just can't see. I think they've learned their lesson from earlier this season. I think they're going to be good in this game. 48-13. I got Bama taking down Mercer on Saturday. All right, that's going to do it for TITV. A reminder, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching Tider Insider Television. Have a great week, everybody.